Good evening. Welcome to the Township Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, August 27th. Mr. Mansour, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'll call first for approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the consent agenda and tonight's agenda with the changes that our presentation to Mr. Delaney be moved up ahead of citizens' comments, and our appointee to the Genesee District Library Board have an opportunity after that presentation to make comments to the board.
Let's move that to just before citizen comments then.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Support.
Any further discussion or changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with that, we have a distinguished guest with us this evening, several. And first one that we would like to recognize is Mr. Bill Delaney. And as probably most of you know, Mr. Delaney served as a supervisor here in the township and served in many capacities. But one of the things that we're very pleased to recognize him for tonight is his involvement with the Genesee District Library. And not only his involvement, but actually the beginning of the Genesee District Library. And I got a resolution here, and then maybe Bill would be willing to say a few words. So we'd like to present this to you, Bill. And it states resolution of appreciation of Mr. William Delaney for his creation of and service on the Genesee District Library. Whereas in 1978, the Genesee County Board of Commissioners announced their intention to discontinue funding the county library system, and whereas Mr. Delaney and 4 other township supervisors met to work on a solution to provide library services in their communities, and whereas the group came up with the idea for the Genesee District Library to be financed at 0.7 mils versus the 1.5 mils, which called for the out-county libraries to join the Flint Public Library System, allowing for lower financing costs and continued local control. And whereas the group's plan went on to win voter approval, and through Mr. Delaney's efforts, the Genesee District Library was born on August 7, 1979. And whereas Mr. Delaney's dedication to the Genesee District Library continued with his 11 years of service on the Genesee District Library Board of Trustees and serving as board chairman for the last 5 years. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Charter Township of Grand Blanc declares its appreciation to Mr. William Delaney for his role in the creation of the Genesee District Library System and his dedication of 11 years of service, providing the opportunity for millions of citizens to benefit from the use of the Genesee District Library for over 40 years. And it's signed by Kathy Lane, our clerk, Mr. Guzak, our treasurer, and myself, supervisor. Congratulations, Mr. Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bennett. He asked me if I'd like to say a few words. And you know how difficult that's going to be. But I can do that. I want to thank you and all of you for being here this evening, and thank you for the presentation. It's just amazing how fast time can travel. And you think back when this building was first renovated in 1976 and again in 1992, how much it has grown, how much the township has grown over these years, up to the point where the township is now leads Genesee County in a total valuation. And it's always led Genesee County in its superior leadership, and we certainly look forward to going forward together. And again, I thank you so much for this presentation tonight, and Godspeed and God bless you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Blanc. Well, we appreciate your leadership, you know, and we stand on the shoulders of our leaders from the past. So thank you for all you did. And I think, you know, one of the things that we have going for us is that we had such insightful leadership in the past.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we would like to, also we have with us this evening someone that I met a few years ago and was very interested in serving the township, and it's Mr. Dale Hostetler. Please stand, Mr. Hostetler. Come on up if you'd like. And, I'm asking our board to consider Mr. Hostetler to replace Mr. Delaney's position on that Genesee District Library Board. Mr. Hostetler would like to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm very excited and appreciative of the opportunity to serve on the library board if approved by the trustees. In the way of background, I am a Kettering graduate in mechanical engineering. I have an MBA from Central Michigan. In the way of leadership, I was with General Motors / Delphi for 41 years. 24 of that as an executive position. In addition to that, I did serve 13 years as the chair of the Gerholtz Counseling Center, which is a nonprofit counseling center for insured and uninsured citizens of Genesee County. So I think that again. I am eager to help in any capacity I can, and I look forward to serving on the board if approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hostetler. Also, I'd like to recognize we have several GDL board members here, if they could all stand. Joni, Sherry, we have, and Mr. Conklin, director, so please give them a warm welcome. I don't know if everybody realizes, but how many libraries are part of the GDL? 13, 15?
19.
19 libraries that these folks oversee and do a fabulous job. I think it's probably been a model for many other counties to follow around the country and just do some amazing stuff. And thank you very much. I know it's a thankless job, and we appreciate you serving on behalf of the township, the county. Okay?
Mr. Ballot,
Yes.
I think we should let Dale know that he has been appointed when we approve the consent agenda, so he doesn't have to worry about whether he's going to be appointed or not.
Right. Yes.
Do you want to introduce our new member now?
So do we need an official motion?
Well, we pulled it out of the consent agenda, so we probably do.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to appoint Dale Hostetler to the Genesee District Library Board.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, congratulations, Mr. Delaney. Congratulations, Mr. Hostetler. With that, we are going to open the floor for citizens' comments, but I just want to make mention that we do have a truth and taxation hearing in a few moments where we're going to open the floor for any comments with regard to the taxation. And we are going to have a presentation that may answer anybody's questions as to what that's all about. And I know I probably shouldn't say this, but we're not raising anybody's taxes. So anyways, with that, and we're also going to have a very impressive presentation for our police department in just a moment too. But first, I'd like to open the floor for citizen comments. And we'll start here on the left side of the room. And anybody that would like to make a comment? Anybody on the right side of the room care to make a comment? Okay, how about anybody in the back part of the room? No?
Oh, it's not right.
That's the first.
All right. It's going too smooth. Okay, with that, we will close citizen comments, and we will now have a board presentation from the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police, Executive Director Bob Stevenson, Director of Professional Development and Accreditation Program, Neil Rosso, and they'll present the police department with their MACP Accreditation Award. Good evening, gentlemen.
Well, good evening, Township Supervisor, honorable members of the Township Board of Trustees. My name is Bob Stevenson. I'm currently the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. Prior to that, I spent 37 years at the Livonia Police Department, the last 7 as Chief of Police. I bring you greetings tonight from our 1,200-member association, and I will also share with you, out of all the things I've done over my police career, this is one of those that I'm most proud of, and that is to be able to make a presentation of certificate of accreditation to various police departments around the state. Accreditation is an extremely difficult process, and Neil Rosso, who's retired Chief of Police from the city of Flat Rock, will be talking about that shortly. To put their if you will, their accomplishment in perspective, I'd like to point out to you that in the state of Michigan, there are 600 police departments. Of those 600 police departments, 400 of them are municipal police departments. Of the 400 municipal police departments, your police department is only the 19th police department in the state of Michigan to achieve the certificate of accreditation. It's an incredible accomplishment. It's a tremendous amount of work. And I think sometimes when you're surrounded by an excellence in a police department such as you have, you don't recognize that. One of the benefits I've got in my position is I get to go around the state and see a lot of police departments. And I'm here to tell you from my position and looking around the state that you have an excellent police department. They're extremely proactive. They're not satisfied with the status quo. They're always looking to improve themselves. So I started my remarks today by saying we're here to present this award of accreditation, and it's not something we give, it's something that you earn. And I'm going to turn the floor over, if I can, to our accreditation manager, Neil Rosso, to explain a little bit about the process that your police department went to earn this certificate. Chief?
Thanks, sir. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, it's truly an honor to be here, and I want to echo kind of what Bob says. I was a police officer for almost 40 years and did a lot of pretty neat stuff, but I think the opportunity to come out to police department and townships and municipalities and reassure them that they have a good police department. And you all know that. You're familiar with accreditation to some extent when it comes to hospitals and to schools, and none of us would want our children treated in a hospital that wasn't accredited, nor go to a school that wasn't. So briefly what happens, and when I say briefly, it's really not fair. Because I tell them this is achievable, and I tell them how easy it's going to be, and that's not totally true. We have 105 standards, and even saying there's 105 standards is kind of a misnomer, because there's about 460 or 470 things you have to do that are included in those standards. So the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission created these 105 standards that are national and state best practices, for the lack of a better way to describe them. Most of them require a written directive or a policy and procedure to meet the standard. So they had to massage and change all those written directives and policies and procedures that they had. And then they create a thing that's called a proof. Then after they're ready, we have 2 outsiders come in. 2 police chiefs or police executives trained by the commission to come in. They know little or nothing about your agency, so they look at what we call those proofs. The proofs say, yeah, they meet the written directive, and yeah, the written directive meets the standard. So that's kind of an oversimplification of what's a very, very challenging thing to do, and your agency did it very quickly compared to other agencies. When the chief bought into it and he formed his team, they did it very quickly. So it's truly an honor to be here, and I'll turn it back to my executive director, Bob.
Chief, if you join me up here at the podium, please. So, Chief, to all who see this certificate, know that the Grand Blanc Township Police Department having voluntarily complied with the standards established by the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, deemed essential for the delivery of professional police services and the protection of their community, is hereby awarded this certificate of accreditation effective as of the 24th day of June in the year of 2019 for a term of 3 years. Chief, congratulations.
I am certainly honored to receive this and to receive this, but certainly it was not my doing alone. Behind any great organization are great people, and we have a lot of great people here at Grand Blanc Township and Grand Blanc Township Police Department. None of this would have happened without that team that was mentioned. So let me tell you about this team. We had two people that really led the way in this, our accreditation managers. It started off, we had one accreditation manager, and that was Sherry Potter. Sherry, if you'd please stand up for me. Sherry did all the heavy lifting in this process. For over a year, she was involved from start to finish as the accreditation manager. She grabbed the bull by the horns and put everything in place and did all the hard work in this process. Without her, this would not have happened as easily as it did for us. Along that way, though, we wanted to add to this team and give some more people experience and some buy-in into this process that wanted to be involved. So we had a second accreditation manager, Lieutenant Bill Rennie. When Bill was promoted as a lieutenant, we made him a second accreditation manager, and he jumped in with both feet. And I think Sherry will attest he was instrumental in allowing us to do this as smoothly as it went for us. But that's not it. We had buy-in from top to bottom. It may have started with me as a chief, but from the chief all the way down to our dispatchers and our civilian employees, they were all involved in this and did great things. So with us today, we have a few other members of the department I'd like to recognize as playing instrumental roles. Lieutenant Max Simpson in the back. Back in this corner, our uniformed officer, Sergeant Tom McCoy. Jump over one and go to Sergeant Josh Ballinger. Far side, Officer Jarrell Webb. One of our newer officers, but that bought into the process and understands the importance, Officer Gunner Wright. You may notice our number 2 in the department, Captain Matt Bauserman, is not here. He wanted to be here. Unfortunately, as you know, we have a professional golf tournament in 2 weeks, and he is at an event for that, preparing and doing some training for that, so that thing goes off seamless. It really is an honor to receive this. I'm proud of this team. I say it every day, but this just is another example of the quality and superior level of service we try to deliver to our residents here. But this wouldn't have happened without a couple people, and that is Executive Director Stevenson and Director of Professional Development Neil Rosso. They put this program together. They put it together for the state of Michigan to advance law enforcement, make it more professional across the state, to raise the bar, if you will. There's a lot of good agencies, but this makes agencies better, makes policing better across the state, and just does a wonder for communities across the state, and we're just honored to be part of it, and thank you for your support. Right from the first time I mentioned it, this board bought into it as well. Superintendent Limita, as my direct supervisor, bought into this and said, go do it. And we did it, and so thank you very much for all your support, and thank you for the community support. It's been instrumental in getting us through this, and we're very appreciative.
On behalf of our board, we'd like to congratulate our entire police department, you chief, for your leadership. We do not take the police department for granted. We very much appreciate all that you do, and this accreditation is kind of a stamp that shows the public what we've known all along. But we appreciate what you do and the class that you do it with and the integrity that you do it with. So thank you very much. With that, we will move on to our public hearing for the truth in taxation for the 2019 millage rates. And Mr. Limita, do you have anything you want to start out with, or?
No, I think you should just bring
Okay.
up Director Salvati.
We'll ask Ms. Becky Salvati, our Director of Assessing, to come to the podium. I think we had a presentation at our last board meeting.
Right, and you wanted something simpler. I gave
Yes.
it to you. It's
Okay.
in your board packet.
Right.
It shows for every $100,000 worth of taxable value, you're going to pay $5.75 less. The millage rates are going down. They have to go down because of the millage reduction fraction for Headley. That's all I have to say. It's not an increase, although that's the way the wording had to be in the paper.
Right,
It's actually, you're voting on a decrease in the millage,
sure.
so.
Okay,
Do you have the ability to pull that up, Scott, or?
sure. Give me just a couple of minutes here and we'll get it up there.
I thought it was.
It's coming, it's just moving a little bit slow right now. Okay. I think I can put this up there. There it is. Okay.
Well, can we continue while you're
Let me
looking?
see. I just need to see if I
That's really all I wanted to say, is what you're voting on is a reduced millage from the prior
Yeah, I
year.
don't think I'm gonna be able to put it up there, Dennis. I'm not gonna be able.
Can I see if it'll take me up if I plug in?
Now, let's just keep going.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all I wanted to say, is you're voting to reduce the millage,
Okay.
so.
We'll see if there's any public comment and then we'll,
I think it brings up that good visual though, and as a one pager,
Right.
if anyone has it, we can make them available, we can print them out and get them on the counter. Do we have some over there?
There are some
now?
on the counter, Dennis, for
Oh,
the
is there?
residents. Yes,
oh, we have them over there?
yes.
Okay. If anybody'd like a copy. Okay. So at this point, I guess we'll open the floor for public comment. Okay, so we'll bring it out to the public. If you have any questions or comments at this time regarding the truth in taxation, we've simplified pretty much a presentation that Ms. Salvati gave to the board and the public at our last meeting, and the handout pretty much summarizes exactly what she said. Anybody wish to speak? Have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing no comments or anybody who would like to speak, we'll close public comment and bring it back here to the board.
Chairman, can we just make a note that this was the public hearing that we noticed?
Yes.
Specifically for this purpose, and
Yeah, this is the public hearing specifically for the truth in taxation. So if anybody has any comments that they would like to make with regard to this, now is the time to speak.
Continue the trend.
Continue the trend? Okay. And actually, you know, one of the things that we get credit for is we are the collection agency basically for all of the property taxes. So while we collect for the county, Mott Community College, everybody, we keep the smallest portion, I think, of anybody to operate the township. So while others may be increasing, we get the blame for increasing taxes when we only keep 17%. So look at what you're paying, and we do a lot for 17% of that tax, from running fire, police, parks and rec, elections, building department, everything here in the township, garbage collection. Mr. Thomas?
I'd like to make a resolution to approve the total authorized levy of 6.7675 mils for tax year 2019, comprised of operating, police, mosquito, fire, parks and rec.
Support.
Any further discussion? Ms. Lane?
Mr. Mansour?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Guzak?
Yes.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Resolution passed.
Okay. The next item on the agenda. Sorry. Okay, the next item on the agenda under operational issues, the board will consider a motion to approve the request from Director Sears to repair the structure of the police cruiser garage for the amount of $22,201 and authorize Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts and agreements.
I so move.
Support.
All right. Anybody need any information, Mr. Sears?
So.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item C, the board will consider a motion to approve the installation of metal roofs on the baseball field, quad pavilion roof, and the small pond view pavilion roof by Lockhart Roofing for $24,290, and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and agreements.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Mr. Atkins?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't be in favor of this, and for the reason being, I'd like to see it tabled until we have an opportunity to discuss exactly what Bicentennial Park should look like to us, what is the color scheme, what's the vision. You know, we're putting a lot of Band-Aids out there, and this is, you know, going to a metal roof is something that's going to last for decades. And you know, you hate to start throwing a bunch of different colors and different materials out there without a vision, and I see a lack of that.
Lack of colors.
Lack of vision.
Okay.
I will withdraw my motion.
Well, you actually, if we have a motion on the table that was seconded, and then then we had a motion to table. If that gets a second, then we can vote on the motion to table, which won't have discussion.
Supervisor Bennett, I would second the motion to table this topic.
Okay. Is there any time constraint we're under, Mr. Lemata, for getting these done, or anything in particular that we could maybe wait a few weeks, or?
Because, I mean, you got a roof that's coming apart,
Right.
you got shingles off. I mean, it's up to the board to decide when they want to fix it, or when you
Okay.
guys want to determine what direction you're heading in. I mean, it doesn't matter to us.
Okay,
So
Ms.
we have a
Lane.
roof without.
Okay, let Ms. Lane, and then back to you,
Mr. Chairman, my suggestion is when we table something, it should be to a date specific so that everybody knows when it's going to be discussed again. So it's, if you either want to do it on Thursday, our second Thursday of the month for September, or wait a month for the fourth Tuesday of the month, I would just simply request that with tabling motions, you do it to a date specific.
It's not a bad idea.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I disagree with the clerk because the Robert Rules of Order does not state that. I think, if I am correct, I'd like for someone to correct me if I'm not correct.
You're right.
The Robert Rules of Order says that at the next meeting, it has to be brought up. If not, it's dead. As I recall. I think I'm right.
Well, again, I'm not, you and I, you're the street lawyer. I don't know the technical requirements of Robert's Rules of Order. I do know, though, that this is an item that I think is not going to go away, right? We don't want it to fall away, but we just don't want to make a decision on it now. And so if there's a motion to table, I think Clerk Lane's suggestion makes sense, that it be to a date certain, so it stays on our agenda, but also
Yeah.
gives us some time.
I'm going to ask if we do go forward and table it, I'd like to review it next month, and it'll get us to get the ball rolling on figuring out what we do want for a color scheme or what have you, because if we don't fix those roofs, it'll probably do further damage, but it's probably been that way for a little while anyways. But Mr. Thomas?
I think what Trustee Atkins is trying to convey is that he wants to have these questions. It's not a question of time, it's a question of answering the vision of what the board wants for the park before we go ahead and spend any more money. Is that what you're conveying, Trustee Atkins?
Mr. Atkins?
Yeah, you know, we talk about Bicentennial being a premier park. We have a lot of great things going on, a lot of events, a lot of attention in that park. And, you know, like upgrading the fields and doing those things are obviously just, you do them to support the park and the programs. But when you look at doing metal roofs or any type of structure changes or painting or any of those schemes, those are things you live with for a long time. And I don't think we know as a board yet what exactly, what are your color schemes? We've talked a lot about entrance signs and exit signs that represent our community. Well, what's going to represent our park, our jewel of the township? So I think it needs to be discussed, because once you put a metal roof on, they're designed to last.
Mr. Thomas?
Is there a way that we can pick a work session on another night of the week or on a Saturday, Sunday, and just do a work session on the park?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's up to our board if they want to get together, but I'd be in favor of it.
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll send out a date and...
But I would ask that if we schedule a session like that we would have a specific agenda to cover and some specific objectives that we expect to deliver out of that, rather than just kind of rambling on about some aspects of the park or the whole situation.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, yes.
if I could, so now we have potentially motion to table, a request from the clerk to set for a date certain. If it turns out that you want to decide on this for an indefinite period of time, if you vote down the motion to table and then vote down the motion, or Mr. Thomas can withdraw his motion at that time.
I withdraw my motion.
Well, let's defeat the motion to table. Mr. Thomas will withdraw his motion. Hopefully, if the second agrees,
Agreed.
then this will be
Why would we defeat the motion to table?
because we want to get back to your
Later on
motion
top of it.
and then withdraw it.
I've already withdrawn my motion.
I know, but before that happened, you had a motion to table from Mr. Atkins.
So we need to take a vote on which one first. then.
Vote, yeah, if you want this off the agenda for an indefinite period of time, vote to deny or defeat the motion to table, and then let Mr. Thomas withdraw his motion and the second withdraw his motion, and then remove it from the
So we'll
agenda.
take a vote on the motion to
Table.
table
Yep.
the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Voted to table.
Yeah, you just voted to table.
We just did the opposite with vote nay.
Let's back this up.
I withdraw
Make a
We
motion.
just,
Well, it's
hold
already-
on, we just had a discussion about,
Can't do it do-over.
well, I don't think we understood the motion.
Yes.
Right.
So
I
a
didn't.
motion to deny, a motion in opposition of the motion to table means it remains on the table or on the agenda. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
So
We'll
we
make a
say-
motion to deny the tabling of the motion.
Correct. Let's
All
do it.
those in favor
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Are
Okay.
you unanimous? Okay, so the motion to table is withdrawn.
So now we will take a motion to,
No, now I'm gonna withdraw my motion, and if
And the
whoever
second
seconded
is
it,
supporting it, is withdrawing it as well.
Okay.
seconded, Joe?
I did.
okay,
Good.
so we need no vote on that. It's
Okay.
So it's off the
No, we
agenda.
withdrawn
Correct.
it, there is no
Okay.
motion.
All right, so I would be in favor of bringing it up next month, but we'll try and get a work session in between now and then.
Supervisor
Yes.
Bennett, I would make a motion to award the bid for Creasy Bicentennial Youth Park field improvements to water management specialist.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next item, the board will consider a motion to approve the draft of the new Township Board Local Road Repairs Policy. Mr. Lemata?
So I sent out, at the last meeting, you had asked us to look at putting together a board policy on road repair so that we could formalize it and get it in one place. The offshoot of that was Trinity Laddie, Director Sears, and myself ran through and round robin several versions of that draft copy, and that was the copy that was included for your consideration. We tried to get as much information in there as we could that would kind of walk through. I know that you've got it in a draft copy. It's open for changes. There may be some other considerations that we didn't have that the board would like to consider. So we presented to gather the feedback. We're not asking necessarily to approve this draft copy in its current form, but just to provide us feedback. Unless you feel like we nailed it out of the gate and you're prepared to move it forward, we would also consider that.
Ms. Lane?
Mr. Chair, I've already indicated to Mr. Laddie that there's some grammar and some other points to this procedure which was initiated by myself back in 2008. So, just to make it easier to read.
Well, I think we're also going to have a meeting just on, I know Mr. Massey's brought to my attention that he believes we probably need 2 meetings to go over policy, and I agree. I don't know that we want to try and fit it all into one, but I think I appreciate you getting together and putting this together so quickly, but hopefully our board wouldn't mind if we hold off on approving this. Mr. Thomas?
Would it be possible, Supervisor Bennett, if we sent this to the subcommittee and then have them go through it and then present that to us, to the subcommittee? That way it'll save time and
yeah,
I trust our subcommittee.
Mr. Mansor?
So sure, so I have some specific questions and offering some, I guess, suggestions on the proposed policy. So I would be happy to
email them.
Formalize
Okay.
those and email them to who?
Very good. Email them to myself or Mr. Limita.
Okay.
Or Mr. Laddie.
Okay.
I send them Mr. Laddie or Mr. Limita. Some of it may be legal.
And I don't want to have violations of the Open Meetings Act.
You won't unless you send them to everybody. So just send them to those 2 individuals and we'll be fine. Okay, so we're not going to take action on that, on the policy tonight. We're going to take some more review of that. We appreciate putting it together in such a timely manner because I know that we requested that we get something together very quickly. The next item on the agenda, the board will consider a motion to approve Chief Wiles' request to purchase 2 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe police pursuit-rated 4-wheel drive marked vehicles to be used in the patrol division. One of which would be a 2020 Ford Explorer and the other would be a Ford Fusion in the amount of $134,602.
That's so move.
Okay.
Support.
Motion and support.
I have a question.
Mr.
If I
Mansor?
could. So I understand from reading this that these are in the budget. I understand that they're basically replacements. I understand that we are also disposing of the previous vehicles. But in an earlier meeting, we talked about how we were migrating from vehicles, cars, 4-wheel sedans, to basically more utility-driven vehicles like sport utility vehicles. And now we've got Ford Fusion included as part of this grouping. And so I'm wondering what the change of direction was there, what the thought was.
Chief?
Good evening again. And Trustee Mansor, you are correct. The primary migration to the 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive was for our patrol vehicles. The 2 Tahoes you see here, those are 4-wheel drive police pursuit-rated Tahoes.
Yep.
The other 2 are admin vehicles. The Explorer and the Fusion go into our admin fleet, replacing a couple of the leased vehicles that we're trying to get out of these leases, and these will replace those vehicles. Part of the thing with any admin vehicle is we want a little diversification of the type of vehicle because we use those for multiple purposes, including surveillance, trailing people and all sorts of stuff, and you don't want a bunch of vehicles looking all alike. So we do have some SUV like the Explorer, then we also have some sedans like the Fusion, or we have an older Impala, an older Taurus, that kind of stuff in our admin fleet, if you will.
So are these replacements for other vehicles? You mentioned
Correct.
returning leases for a couple of these.
Yep, the Explorer and the Fusion are replacing 2 of the lease vehicles that we're getting rid of these leases and going a different direction.
Thank you.
Mr. Guzak?
Yeah, I just had one question. I know we had 3 leases originally, right?
That is correct.
So we're only replacing 2 of them, so the
Yes.
last one, what are we doing with that lease?
I'm hopeful to be able to replace that next year.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna continue on that lease?
On the one, yes.
So it didn't affect the price or anything,
No.
or? Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Massey?
You made the comment, Chief. I called it. It's sort of a tricky question.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Why you don't want vehicles looking alike?
Why don't you?
Yes.
Because the admin vehicles are the unmarked vehicles. They're used for multi-purpose. And when they're used for surveillance, you don't want a bunch of vehicles all looking the same. You want to diversify that fleet. You want different colors, different makes, different models. And primarily it's so the bad guy, if you will, doesn't say, oh, there's a pink Malibu down there, that's the police. Or there's a black Impala there, that's the police. You want to mix it up a little bit so they don't get too key on one type of vehicle.
I thought that would be your answer. That's why I asked.
I wasn't expecting that.
Okay, we got a busy schedule, so let's keep moving. Mr. Thomas?
The admin vehicles, these aren't 2 vehicles that are going to be used by one officer.
Yeah.
No,
Yes, they are.
no.
That's what I'm asking.
No, these are replacing 2 vehicles that are currently used by 2 different officers.
Okay, so these aren't assigned to anybody, or,
They will be assigned to people, yes.
oh, yeah, but not just one person?
No, no.
That's what I'm asking. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Good on the vehicles?
So moved, or take your up for voting.
Was there a motion?
Yes,
And
sir.
seconded?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item on, thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda, I'm actually going to ask that we table that. I asked Mr. Laddie to look into some things with regard to the Historic District Commission in terms of the number of people that we can appoint. And we're tracking down, it dates back a little ways, and we're tracking down what actually was approved and when it was approved and what have you. So there's no urgency to it. I would just ask that both Ms. Christensen and Ms. Popoff were telling me, I've heard that they're both very active, that they continue being active, and hopefully in the next month we can get something resolved with regard to that. But okay, with that, the next item on the agenda, the board will consider a motion to approve Clerk Lane's request to purchase 17 election laptops for a total of $11,052.72. It's come to my attention that the current laptops are about 10 years old. A lot of the election law has changed in the last last year actually. You know, one of the things that voters can do now is they can actually show up on the day of voting, and even if they're not registered, and want to register to vote. Correct, Ms. Lane? Yeah, and vote.
As long as they do it before 8 o'clock Tuesday night.
I would like to make the motion to purchase the computers.
I'll second it.
17 17 laptops to replace the very outdated ones at a cost of $11,052.72. Because one of our main duties as trustees, board members, is to make sure that our elections are smooth, and this will help them run smooth.
Ms. Massey?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. My comment is that
We need a support.
I support it.
Mr. Guzak supported it.
Supported it.
My comment is that I cannot support this now, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think if you're a leader, you should have some foresight. Now, you're going to tell me this just happened immediately? This was not known months ago? I just cannot buy into it right now. There has to be some more discussion about this. So it seems like it just came up immediately. So I'm saying we got to have more foresight than we have, so I just cannot support this.
Is this a budgeted item?
Yes.
So it is in the budget from last year?
This is the
So,
budget for this year, and it was, even the discussion of this was done back in February when it was tabled.
So we brought this up in February and we asked to table it back then.
No, that was a totally different
I
topic.
thought those were the scanners.
That was
Those
totally
are the hard
different.
election scanners.
Yes.
This laptop replacement was included in your 2019 budget request for the elections department.
Really? Okay.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Massey.
So I have a couple of questions about this. First, are these 17 laptops, are they like 100% replacements for the older ones?
Yes, all of these 17 were purchased by the state 10 years ago. They're breaking down. I even had to get our election person to come on a Saturday and go to Staples and buy one so that we could operate. And with the change in law, we can't download our laptops now until Monday after 4 o'clock. So if they break down, we've got nowhere to go, and these are no longer serviceable. The GIS department knows that. And
Well,
so
let me just make sure that everybody understands, because I understand what Mr. Massey's saying, that, that if this weren't budgeted for and it just sprang up, it'd be like, and a few years ago with the police, we said, hey, we need a plan for when these vehicles are, same with the fire, we have a plan for when things are gonna be replaced. We don't just all of a sudden, hey, we need to replace a fire truck. We know. These were in the budget, even though maybe it wasn't on the front burner for us, but so that kind of changed my thought a little bit on it too, Mr. Massey. But the other thing is that what you're asking Mr. Mansour about the laptop, that downloading that that Miss Lane mentioned is that, so the night before the election, starting at 4 o'clock is when all that information has to be downloaded, and I can imagine it's, pretty voluminous. And having to download that before 6 a.m. in the morning on all those, there's one laptop for each precinct, which there's 15 precincts. There's one for the counting boards here, and then one spare. So that's the number of 17.
So I understand that. So the other two questions I had was, is there additional software-related cost for these? And is it necessary, or should these have some kind of security in them so that they're not hackable? I mean, obviously the counting machines, well, I won't say obviously, but probably the counting machines aren't. But is there way we can secure the download so that's not
there is, once it's downloaded, it cannot be downloaded to anybody else. It only works on the day of the election. And I forgot your first question, Mr.
Who
Mansell.
provides the software for the laptops? The state?
That comes all from the state, and it comes from our qualified voter file. So they'll be emptied out after all of the audits are completed after every election. And then on the Monday night after 4 o'clock is when we have to download for the next election, so the most current registration is available. And they have to be out at the precincts by 6 a.m. and
These laptops aren't used for anything else other than
they're
the
locked
election?
up with the election equipment.
So, I mean, in 10 years, these laptops have been used no more than 20.
I would say,
No more than 20
like
times.
this year, we're using them twice a year, and in the regular elections, we're using them 4 times a year.
I use my
But
laptop.
everything in the technology
That
of
much
the
a week.
computer is slower.
Yeah.
what'd you say,
I use my laptop more than that in a week.
On a day. The problem is that, the technology in 10 years is, and trying to download that stuff on a 10-year-old laptop.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Clerk Lane brought up an interesting point. When you said the computers are slower, the laptops are slower. So what is the speed of these laptops?
I'm not the technological person. The GIS department staff checked with the state's new requirements, and that's how they were put out to the state bidding to get it done. The GIS department handles that, Mr. Massey.
So the state of Michigan
Sets a standard.
set a standard for what these laptops had to have on them.
Right.
And so they actually set what they need to have in terms of memory, speed, what have you. Our GIS department actually put the bid out, and we received responses to what the requirements are. As far as, software, what have you, the state provides that. And the download, the state provides as well. So when you go in to vote, they're gonna have a laptop there, and that's the laptop that you're
Has the
seeing.
information on the voters
Right.
for that precinct.
So I think, to
So-
protect the voter integrity, we gotta make sure that those
Mr.
things are
Chair,
operable.
So
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're telling me when we buy the amount of money here gives us the software and everything that we need?
For when they walk in the precincts and for you to say, I want to vote. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you will need no more financing for these laptops?
Not for those laptops, no.
Okay.
Okay. I know it seems, kind of crazy to buy new laptops that are only used a couple times a year, but it also is critical that we get the election correct too. The last thing we want is somebody have a precinct shut down because the laptop doesn't work, even though it's only been used 15 times in the last 10 years.
What are we doing with the old ones? Clerk Lynn?
I have no idea.
I spoke
Most
with
of them are
Dennis.
not.
Yeah, I spoke with Dennis about that, and we can probably put it on Gov Deals, but I'm not sure what a 10-year-old laptop will get you.
Couple, $200-300.
No. I doubt that. 200, 300 for the
No,
whole
because-
thing.
Per the purchasing policy, if there's no use for them, we'll declare them as surplus property. We'll put them out in a block, for somebody to pick up. You'll be lucky if you sold all of them for $100 maybe,
Yeah.
if somebody can pull some parts out of there. They don't support those, they just don't have the support anymore, so they're virtually, useless.
I have another question. So these laptop computers do not have Microsoft Office on them?
Nope,
No.
nothing.
Oh, they have to.
No programs whatsoever?
They have the state's program to work for an election.
Okay,
That's all it does.
okay.
They download it, they take
Yeah,
it away.
that's only used for the election.
I mean,
So you asked me to call for the question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Thomas?
Yes, sir.
We've had a motion and it's been seconded.
Yes,
All those
sir.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a few other things we want to cover yet tonight, but we're going to probably go into executive session. I would like to ask Mr. Lemata, do you have anything you want to cover at this point, Mr. Lemata?
No, I'll have some topics,
In the executive session?
bring up in executive
Okay.
session.
Mr. Laddie, anything this time?
No, sir.
I just want to state that we had the grand opening for Magna this past week, just a fabulous event. Many of you were there, were able to make it. Thought it was just very, very nice to have such a fabulous facility open in our township. Just incredible to see the technology and the number of people that were there. We also, I think, will have some announcements here shortly with regard to Tech Village. So we're looking forward to that as well. With that, Mr. Laddie?
Mr. Chairman, if you consider a motion to go into executive session to consider two labor negotiation issues and also two written attorney opinions,
So we're not doing
I
it.
appreciate that.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Okay, Ms. Lane?
Mr. Mansour?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Guzak?
Yes.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett? And myself, yes.
I made it.
Yes.
All meeting without my microphone on.
Why are you talking real loud?
you don't need it.